welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today to Beauty and the Beast. Yes, to help me along the way, I have a fabulous gentleman who's been one of my mentors throughout the years, Andrew Finkelstein. And this wonderful gentleman has such a rich background in our industry, and his expertise is in coaching and helping salons move from good to definitely great. So it's with great honor that I have one of my heroes here today, and I'd like to just welcome to our feed the fabulous Andrew. Good morning, Andrew.
Good morning, Vivienne. Thank you for that. I didn't recognize the guy who you were describing, but thank you so much.
And it's so true. It's so true.
Well, you are one of my icons too. So we're in a mutual admiration society here, and I'm so happy to be here with you. I get to be the beast. Someone wrote me and said, "You're not really a beast, are you?" I said, No. But you, Vivienne, truly are a beauty, and what you've given to the industry is nothing short of extraordinary. So I'm really happy that we get to talk about today just how to become the best you can be, and everything attached to that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely. So good morning, Stephen, Lisa, and Laurie. As you come onto the feed today, a warm welcome. Please let us know where you are located, and please let us know if you are a salon owner, a stylist, a teacher, an independent. Just let us know. And any questions and challenges you may be facing right now, please pop them into the feed so we can have a dynamic time. I encourage you to take notes unless you're driving. The good news is this is recorded. You'll be able to go back. And what I wanted to do here was to be able to help you by, as we go through here today, we've given you some notes to be able to review so that we've got some key bullet points here as we're going through our presentation. So that's going to be very, very important as we go on our journey. So let's dive straight into it. Andrew, you've worked with the biggest brands and most famous hairdressers in the world. What common traits did they share that made them world class?
Great question. Terrific question. I'll tell you, first of all of them were totally determined to be successful. And there's an inner drive, whether you're an individual or you're running a company, because companies are just about people, nothing more, nothing less. But there's a mindset of determination that makes all the difference. They're visionaries. We talk a lot about vision. I'm sure people in the audience have said, well, what is vision? It's just something that you envision yourself, and it's a place that you want to go to. It's maybe a fantasy, but that's okay. But that doesn't matter. It's something beyond where we are now. We want to take you to a higher ground. Another thing that these folks do, and that's why they're world class, is they learn from their mistakes, okay? And they do that quickly. They don't sit on it, but they do review, and they don't stew when they've made a mistake. They move on. And that's key. And they have this overall mindset of success. And that's what drives these companies. That's what drives the individual. That's why they are world class. And you may say, well, everyone has that. No, they don't.
Andrew, I remember being very fear-based as a youngster because I was useless and insecure, and I was scared to ask for help. So I would bury myself in a little corner and get myself into deep trouble. And I let my fear of moving forward paralyze me until one day I had such a traumatic experience that I said, okay, here's a choice, Vivienne. You carry on down this path with failure, or you do something about it. And it was a deciding moment when I had a client sitting in my chair, and she was a bride, and I had no idea what to do. And I was in such a panic. I tried to leave the salon and I realized I couldn't get through the staff room window. It was too tiny. And the only other way to leave the salon was through the front door. And I swore on that day I would never be in a place where a client sat in my chair and I did not know how to serve her. And I said to myself, it's my duty to myself and to the clients that I will serve to do my very, very best. Now, you have actually worked with some of the most brilliant, famous names. I mean, names that if I could be a sectioning clip in their presence or a broom sweeping the floor, I would to this day say, oh my gosh, for example, Garen.
Right. Well, Garen, amazing hairdresser. But I can tell you, Garen, the Garen that everyone knows today started out in one of our places up in Buffalo, New York. I probably shouldn't say this, but that's the deal. And he embodied all of the things that I just shared with you. The guy was totally determined, total visionary. And he moved, but he just did it all, and nothing was beneath him. He just did it. And courageous man, brilliant hair artist, and he also was a really good mentor of others. He wasn't afraid to take on talent and develop talent. I mean, Orbe was his assistant when Garen was in the Plaza Hotel. Pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Just think about that.
Yes, absolutely. And let's just give people a little bit more of a background, just a little overview. So but before we dive into the meat and potatoes of today,
Sure.
we want to hear your questions, guys. For all of you who are now chatting in the chat rooms, welcome. You work with iconic hairdressers, the Orbe, the Rogers, the Garens, the famous hairdressers who set trends. Tell us about the salon experience and how you grew up in this industry.
Well, thank you for asking. My family had been in the business, and I could tell you, I was just writing about this. I was not on the floor involved with doing hair. I'd be a liar to tell you that I was at the age of 3. I was shampooing. That wasn't the case. Family was in the business, and I went to university, came out, and went into another field entirely. And then one day a family member came to me and said, hey, it'd be really great if you came and joined us. And he drew me in. And I literally started in the business behind a desk. I'm not licensed. Okay. Leave that to the talented people that we work with. And through that experience, I mean, we had a large international company. I got to meet and work with directly all the people that you mentioned. Okay, the Roger Thompsons. You didn't mention Roger, but Roger was the head of our great, a really talented stylist. I believe Roger was one of Vidal's assistants way back when.
He was indeed.
Yes, so it was a real deal. So meeting up with people like that, working with them, because I was responsible for our training program and Roger was the head. And when Roger left, and he eventually passed at a very early age, Garen took on that accountability, and so on and so forth. And so I got to meet through the company and through working directly with these people, incredible hairdressers. We just Kenneth Patel. I mean, we were a partner with Kenneth. I worked with the man. Jean-Louis David, great French hairdresser, one of the brilliant hairdressers of all time. Worked with him directly for 10 years. Ran his salons here in North America for him. as part of our company. So anyhow, it's always been an honor to work with people. And I have to tell you, Vivienne, I also work with people all over the country, brilliant hairdressers in their particular marketplace. You don't need a name to be brilliant at what you do at all.
Absolutely. And
At
you
all.
also have been in a place where you've seen many roadblocks and many challenges. So what I want to know is, what do you see as the biggest roadblock to salons being more successful?
That's a great question. It all starts with the leader. Okay, if the leader and the leader's mindset, as we call it. I know it's a big topic today, but it's always been, it's the truth. If the leader has the correct mindset of going in, a mindset of service, a mindset of being a visionary, being determined, all the things I talked about before, and what you just talked about fear of failure. I mean, if we show up fearful, and I don't mean being, how do I want to say it? If we show up fearful, let's leave it like that, on a level where that's stopping us from moving forward, obviously we will not be successful. We will not achieve our vision. So we really have to come to grips with where we get paralyzed. And there's so much chatter around our industry, so much about a lot of what I would consider negativity. There's a reality to things that are going on. I'm not minimizing it, but on the flip side, there are people who are doing incredibly well.
Yes.
Incredibly well.
I did a course with John Maxwell, who's an incredible leadership expert, and I became a coach for him. And he said, everything rises and falls on leadership. And I thought, well, how am I going to take these leadership skills and apply them to being a better hairdresser? And the first thing I realized is, how do I lead myself? And then how do I lead myself through a consultation? How do I lead myself through a haircut? Am I working smart? Am I working hard? And because I've had the fortunateness and sometimes the scariness of watching myself on camera, I say the fortunate part is I can watch the mistakes and go, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I should do this. Oh, so I've seen myself on film so much that I can go, change, because the way I'm leading myself is not good. So when we look at the roadblocks to the salons, you said leadership is everything, and it's a mindset. And I presume, because you're such an expert in the world of coaching, what is the first kind of pain point that you most commonly have to kind of pounce on to say to somebody, okay, mindset, adjust? What is that?
Oh boy. Now that's a tough question. First of all, a mindset, you have, again, it goes back to determination. You have to realize that mindset is very real. And where I go with it is, it's a framework. Your leadership is all in a framework of how you think about something, how you think about yourself, how you need the energy to do it. We'll talk about that later. You need the confidence. You need a lot of things. To get back to your question, what's the first thing that the first turn on? I think it's that determination. It's like my little granddaughter, who's 4 years old, says, she literally says, I can do this. And you know what? You can do this too. If a 4-year-old can think that way, you can think that way. And you have to think that way, that you can succeed. You can meet your goals. You can achieve your dreams. If you don't believe it, guess what? It won't happen.
And when we look at high-profile salons in major cities, are they facing the same problems as the smaller suburban salons are facing?
You betcha. It's just a different space. They face all this. They have people problems, right? They have client. I'll put it under the umbrella, team and clients, Same deal. They have, they want to improve the quality of service. How do you do that? They have to attract and keep people, both clients and stylists. What's different? Just the pool is you have a large pool, but when you have a large pool, you have fierce competition. When you have a smaller pool, yes, you have competition, but not as much. It is all weighed accordingly. So everything is really the same. You need to have an identity, as we put it, for your business.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've been working with some of the members of my website on design your lifestyle and reverse your career into it. Because when we design our lifestyle first as to how much money we want, how much do we want to be charging for each individual service, is going to determine the zip code, the postal code of where you're going to live. Maybe a little less today than it used to be. And that's an important question that I think I should ask you first. Where before, if you were in a high profile salon in a major city, you knew you could charge a very, very, very high ticket. And the more you went out into the suburbs, there was an expectation that the price point would be lower because the overhead was lower. So it was a marrying, right? But today with social media and the world becoming more global, do you feel that that difference has shortened? Do you feel that our suburban salons do have, if they've got the skills and the services, the ability to match a major salon in a major city?
absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's in every marketplace, you're going to have your leaders, and you're going to have, because every marketplace has a different, a variation of people living in the marketplace. So you can choose. And it's just a question of what you do, how you do position yourself. It's there. I'm right now broadcasting from a place called Birmingham, Michigan, and I can tell you the prices here are New York prices. It may not be, that extreme $1,000 haircut, but most people in New York don't charge that anyway. But the prices here are maybe 10% lower, maybe 10%, if not a parity. So today, it really does not matter. Either you're good and people pay, or you're not.
So Andrew, when you're coaching somebody, and the
Mhm.
first place you're looking at is, how do you determine the value of your service? Is it an opinion? Is there a science behind it? What's your approach?
Well, it's how you determine your own value, your value of yourself, and that gets reflected in the pricing. Because I basically work with a person, and that person then determines what price they want to charge. I'm not telling them what to do, but I will certainly, if they're coming to me and saying, "Hey, I'm not really making it." Okay, so if you're not really making it, it may be a function of your pricing, etc. But I doubt it. I doubt that. Pricing is just a reflection of what your inner sense is telling you. That's it. If you're worth it, you charge.
I
But you really,
would have to say, Andrew, from all the famous people that I've worked with, they absolutely believe in their worth. There is no doubt in their mind that they believe that they believe that they believe in it in a humble way, because they've climbed the ladder in such a challenging way. When they've got there through constantly working on their skills, constantly looking for
exactly.
new, they feel that the scraping and the climbing up the mountain justifies their end product. And we're going to dive even deeper into this, my friends, as we get into this conversation. But I want to kind of slightly shift gear for a moment. And we're talking about money, and we're going to come back to that conversation. But I'd like to know from Andrew, how do we measure success beyond our numbers? If we're kind of doing this kind of pro tip here to measure one as the smallest amount of joy joy, and 10, the maximum amount of joy. I know that, Andrew, you've got some really solid advice around this where we can talk about the happy factor, because we're talking about chasing the dollar, chasing the pound, but what about that chase for happiness? And if you could take a lead here and dive into this conversation, I would really appreciate it.
Sure. Well, joy and happiness, look, we chase a dollar, we chase the pound because we believe that the joy and happiness that we're going to get out of that is going to be worth it. But you know what? And I'm not minimizing the dollar or the pound here, because it's really important that we achieve financial success. If you're in business and you're in business business won't stay in business unless it's profitable, period. That's the name of the game, okay? So go play another game if you don't want to play that one. But joy, everyone's looking to be happy. Come on, let's deal with it. Let's get real. Okay, why are we doing all this stuff? Because we want to be happy. We want to feel creative, right? We want to express ourselves. We want to show up every day in a way that we feel good. We feel good. And it's been proven. I mean, there's been a Harvard study. It's called the happiness dividend here, and this took place. I think the study was 10 years ago. It took place, and this was working with major corporations. Happiness is directly how you feel about when you go to work and how your people are feeling when they are going to work. And this is the job of a leader. And it's not to make them happy because they get everything that they want. That's not making people happy. What's making people happy is how they feel about themselves, how they are treated, okay? How the leadership acknowledges them, how the results of their work. I mean, it's great when you're doing great work, when you're doing quality work. And yes, are you ever truly happy with your work? You can always do better. We all know this. You don't have to beat yourself up, but when you're doing work, when you understand that you're moving forward in your work and every day it's getting a little bit better, guess what? Your happiness factor goes up and the results show. And these are major companies that this was taken. This is not taken from just bottom line companies. This is sales soar. I think it was Metropolitan Life Company. The sales go up to 37%, productivity, and these are tremendous numbers that are all attached to when people are feeling better, when people are feeling happy, joyous.
Andrew, when I was at a very famous company, Bedell Sassoons, and I was there as an apprentice, and I climbed through the ranks. To do that extraordinary work was so difficult. And as I started off this conversation, I really wasn't very good. And I was a very shy student, and I held myself back. So as much as I wanted something, my belief about myself was like a handbrake on my future until I decided enough already, this is ridiculous. And I made a radical conscious change. During that time, happiness was not even on my radar. We were so serious and so focused that I actually felt guilty if I was goofing around. And if we were on a photo shoot or a show or running a little bit late, you cannot be too happy because you've got work to do and you're going to grind away. And we worked crazy long hours. When I came to the United States, I met the fabulous Win Claybar. And he, for those of you who don't know, he is the founder of the Paul Mitchell Schools. There's over 100 here in the United States. And he had a vision to change the culture. And he did a phenomenal job on culture, which was really beautiful. And he's just an extraordinary man, extremely benevolent. And he kind of hit me up with, well, Viv, how come you're not happy? I went, well, I'm too busy working. I'm too busy grinding away. And he just looked at me and I said, I'm meant to be happy doing this. And in a way, I was happy by the reward, but the
Right.
journey, it was like, I've got my serious head on and so on and so forth. When I realized that when I infuse happiness into it, and when I have a goofy moment, but I'm still focused on doing my very best work, I realized, wow, it was like a weight taken off my shoulders. So my early career was very labored by you fail, you work harder, you fail, you work harder, to the point where I'm attracting failure as my
Hmm.
way to work through it, versus attracting happiness, attracting joy, attracting success, being the best version of myself. People want to be around happy people, not miserable people. So I think the measure of what we're speaking about here, and guys, I'm going to bring it up on the screen again, sales soar by 37%, productivity increases by 31%, employees are 40% more likely to be promoted, people have 23% greater energy in the midst of stress, accuracy on tasks improves by 19%. So these are all about happy, happy. So I'd love to hear in the chat, what are you going to do today with intentionality to infuse more happiness into your workspace? That would be a really great thing to hear, don't you think? So I'd like to move on. What is your advice for attracting more clients, Andrew? Because that's always the
So,
big thing, isn't it?
well, people, it is a huge thing. And talk about happiness. When we're attracting more clients, we're happier, right? So, and we're feeling good. We have to be doing something right to attract more, and that's what we want, right? It all filters back to that. So, really, you want to attract more clients, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. That has a lot to do with energy, has a lot to do with these habits that everyone knows about, but very few actually practice. Has to do with some mindfulness. You mentioned that before, Vivienne. Has to do with meditation, has to do with eating correctly. I mean, our industry is notorious for eating terribly, right? For rushing through everything. It's sad in a way, but you can change all that. You don't need to do that. That doesn't come with the license, believe me. So taking care of yourself, showing up. And what do I mean by showing up? And Vivienne, I think that you showed up every day on those for whatever you had to do. But so you were there physically, and actually you were there mentally too. It just was part of a learning curve, but learning can be joyous. Great tip is to journal. Hey, go home. What did I learn today? What did I do great today? What can I do better tomorrow? Don't beat yourself up. Doing great work is part of this. I mean, we all know that someone walks out of our business, and if they're looking great, heads are going to turn. Their friend says something to them. What'd you do? So doing great work, and part of the great work is the technical work. And then it's also what you do when you're with someone, how you make them feel. Be consistent. So important. Every day. That was the great thing about Sassoons. They were consistently hard, but consistent. Doing things one way every day. How we greet people, how we smile with people. Consistent. No one likes the ups and downs. That's just how it is. Be the best version of yourself. I mean, who are you? Be aware of that. Bring your best. Bring that person to work that you want to be. I mean, if you want to be joyful, bring that on. Bring that on. Be a lifelong learner. I mean, every day we're learning something. Again, journaling is a very powerful way to accelerate your learning, because you're reflecting and then planning. So I would recommend, if you want to attract more clients, journal every day. It sounds crazy, but do that. So important. And something that you'll talk about later on, which is that consultation. You got to do that.
Yeah.
The consultation is getting to know someone, getting to hear someone, their dreams, their hopes, their desires. And so we're coming from real service when we do a great consultation. When we don't come from service. I'm sorry. That's just about you. It's not about them. It's not about giving to someone a gift of their best being, their best look.
Yeah.
That's how it is, you know?
I absolutely agree with you on all of those points, because you can't give what you don't have. So it always starts with self.
Yeah.
And the irony is we are the only industry in the world that faces a mirror. So that reflection that comes back to us, what is it saying? A dear friend of mine who had a salon at the Berkeley Hotel in London, and a very, very expensive salon in this extraordinary hotel. Every Saturday before work, he would go to four top hotels in London and give the concierge, this was pretty amazing, he would give the concierge £100 every Saturday and say, send me some clients today. And back then, and we're talking in the 90s, they were charging £200 for a blow dry. So he had the intentionality to go out there, give some money to the concierge, 4 top hotels to come to his amazing salon. That was the intention that he had, and the business he built was extraordinary. So I think that you have to always look to your own unique model of who you are and your own brand, and just say, what am I doing that's working? To Andrew's point, the journaling, and what can I do better? Because we are so fortunate that we get to actually connect with somebody. It's not this kind of flash by thing, is it? We're the last one standing, which is so amazing to me. So what is the cost to acquire a new client? I know it's a very deep dive when we're looking at the analytics of the numbers, but you've got some very important points to touch on here, which I think is important. And I love this quote here: when you outperform your competition, you are willing to do what others are not willing to do. So let's dive into that subject, Andrew.
Absolutely. Well, let's start with the end. That you are on this call, taking your precious time to be with us, to perhaps to learn something that's that you want to learn, or you're learning something that you didn't even know existed, which happens, is a tribute to you. And those people who are not here, well, maybe there's someplace where they're learning too. Okay. But most people in the world are not willing to do what you have to do to get to where you want to be. I mean, there's a big gap. And I think going back to your experience at Sassoon, I mean, there were many apprentices at Sassoon, and the chosen few, so to speak, were willing to do what they had to do, which everything they had to do to reach the floor, to achieve, so that they could achieve their dreams. And so many of them did. It was a dream factory.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
So bottom line here is, you want to acquire a new client, there's a lot to it. And I would say, let's keep it simple, folks. Just know your basic numbers. Just know your basic. Does not have to be fancy. Okay. These term financial return on investment, your time return on investment. There's been a lot of talk about, and a lot of it is talk, and a lot of it is outlier stuff. What Instagram, just post on Instagram, and presto, people will be flooding the door. It's just not true. That's just not true. If you want to use Instagram as a, and I'll pick on Instagram. It could be any other. It could be any other vehicle, any other marketing vehicle. You really have to look at what the real return is. And if you're not willing to do what other people won't do, and willing to do means showing up every day on these marketing vehicles and just pounding it away, because when you show up, other people don't show up, but you're the consistent one, you're the constant one. I think I told you about this hairdresser, some of you may know, Johnny Ramirez, who's known for his beach blondes. And the guy he's from LA. He built businesses in LA, New York, Miami, and I can't remember the other cities that he has followings in, all through Instagram. But that just didn't happen overnight. 5 years every day posting blondes on Instagram. Every day. He still does it every day. And that's what you have to do. And if you're not willing to do that, for whatever your reasons are, don't even suit up. Don't even suit up. You know?
That's a powerful statement there, Andrew. I love that. Don't even suit up.
Don't even suit up.
And, you know, in the interest of time, I think it's really important that we remind ourselves to value the clients that we have, which is so important. So, Andrew, why as an industry are we shy to raise our prices? What advice can we apply today to increase our prices and feel confident doing so?
Okay, well, the real advice is just truly knowing your numbers. Okay. And here it is, guys. Inflation is real. So just count on it. Count on it being that way. That means everything. Let's just use a nice round number of 10% because it's easier. Inflation's real. Everything's costing you 10% more. You must have that reflected in your prices. And basically not to worry, because you're selling yourself, you're selling the value, you're good. Not to worry. You have to believe in yourself. You have to have the practice, and I'm sure you all do, and sufficient amounts of practice. You wouldn't be here if you hadn't. So you're worth it. You're worth it. And don't assume. One of the biggest things Vivienne talked before about fear stopping us. There is a fear factor that we're going to be rejected, that people are going to be angry, that people are going to leave us. You know what? It is in our heads, and some people will leave. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You'll get more. You will get more. As I said before, there's something, there's something about high prices that do attract. There's something about consistent marketing that does attract. And there's something about not raising your prices that doesn't attract people. What that is people are not going to talk about you. You know, you're going to talk about your hairdresser hasn't raised their prices in 5 years, not on your life, even though you may be doing great work. Or what you're going to hear is, oh, who did your hair? Oh, that's Vivienne. You know, and it's such a deal. Well, you're struggling. You're doing great. You're doing great work, and your clients are sending you more people for great deals. We're not in the great deal business.
Well, I think, Andrew, as a creative, when I was told, know your numbers, I went, I look at a spreadsheet and I freak out. But a number reflects a behavior. So I, as a creative, can relate to that. And if I don't like the number, I know I have to change the behavior. And for me, that was a big, big turning point. So guys, these points here, take a screen capture of it, make your notes. As Andrew's saying, journaling is a very important part of what we do. So this today is a journaling. Touch base with yourself. Where are you strong? where could you say, I think I need to readjust this mindset? Because as Andrew said, it is a mindset. So just moving on, we're going to touch this quite briefly because we do have some juicy stuff to jump into, but burnout is very, very real. Andrew, speak to us about this.
Yeah, it is real. That comes back to energy. That comes back to the basic things that we have to do. You really need to take care of yourself. You need to sleep. Okay. You need to have something. A lot of people consider their profession their hobby. No, you need a break. Get involved in something. Get involved outside of yourself. Do exercise. Please, 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 please. Exercise. If it's just walking for, 15 minutes a day, any chance that you can get, do that. Eat well. I mean, if you don't, you're going to be carrying around, additional pounds that you do not need. You do not need. So, and that burns you out. Eat right. Because if you don't, again, burnout and self-inflicted, all this stuff is self-inflicted. We have choice on everything here. We do. And it's how you're thinking. Again, it goes back to your mindset. It's all wrapped in there. And if you're struggling with this, get a non-burnout buddy or something. Someone team up with someone, okay, and calorie counters and show up and have an accountability buddy. I guess that's the word for it. But don't hold it in. Don't hold it in. There's no shame. There's no shame in what you've done in the past. You did it. Let it go. You don't have to be that person of the past. You have to be a visionary of who you want to be in the future, your best self. And that's how we want to show up. Okay. And it's little changes because you're not going to see it overnight. Don't give up. It's that determination. We go back to the first slide. What do greats have? They have determination. So if you're determined to be great, and I know you are, you can't afford burnout. I mean, it's not in the equation. And burnout doesn't put any bucks in the bank.
Yeah.
Period.
I think what would be great for you guys, again, take a screen capture of this and ask yourself, where are you soaring high and where are you not giving to yourself? Because as we know, you can't give what you don't have. So you've got to take care of self. And I've seen some major great artists in my time burn out. And I've seen the tragedy that comes with that because of a lack of balance in life. So we have to be masters of editing our own life, which I think is so very, very important. Andrew, you are a high performance coach. So how do people find you? And how do we get more of Andrew?
Easy. Go to andrewfinkelstein.com, and that's where I am. And click on sign up for a free high performance strategy session, and you'll learn a lot more about yourself and what you can do, and you'll learn a lot more about your mindset, where it's at, and your habits and where they're at, and I'll walk you through something that is invaluable to you and your performance. I promise you'll spend an hour with me and it'll be one of the best hours you've ever spent in your life. So, and I have one little tip, Vivienne. I know we have to get on. Hairdressers are great booking clients, okay? And you really know your book. Expand your book to a 24-hour day book and book yourself in to that book. Book your sleep, book your exercise. Don't just book clients, book yourself. You will thank me. You will come back. I promise you will thank me next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now that you did it.
That is great advice. I love that. That is so good. So guys, some really wonderful advice here from Andrew. We're now going to flip this around and Andrew's going to ask me some questions. We said that this was about Beauty and the Beast, to take a look at the business side, and we're doing a light dive today. And if you want more, just let us know. And obviously, I highly encourage you to spend some time with Andrew because he has such a wealth of knowledge and a heart of gold. So that's a really wonderful thing for you to do. So we're now going to switch gears here. And first of all, I wanted to let you know that in your email that you got, there is a link to my How to Be an In-Demand Hair Designer. So please download that book. It has my philosophy on how to achieve mastery in haircutting. And there's an insight to the training that I like to follow and share with everybody. So that's really important. So we're now going to have Andrew ask me some questions.
There you go. Thank you, Vivienne. So, on the creative end of things, what's going on? What do you see with the hairdresser today? What's the biggest pain points?
The thing that I've been hearing is a lack of confidence. I think we're coming out of a wonderful time of color and long layers. And now that it's starting to shift and we're seeing the advent of new perming technology, the advent of more people wanting shorter, easier to manage hair, there's a lack of confidence in cutting short hair. And that is actually, when you lack the confidence, it kills your passion and it kills your motivation. And how do I know that? I've experienced it. It's been probably the biggest battle that sits on my shoulder, where it's like, oh, Viv, you're not good enough for this. So I've had to battle it my entire career, but that's a voice I hear. Also, the lack of technical and creative skills, they will kill your confidence and the joy. We spoke today about the happy factor and having that happiness of creation, that happiness of creating beauty. The other thing I see are poor habits that take stylists away from their goals, not being aware of how life is pulling, dragging, distracting, how life is fractured, and how, to your point, Andrew, which I think is brilliant, the importance of that 24-hour calendar diary of putting in that time for you, because you can't give something if you don't have it. So that to me is a huge part of our journey.
So you've had an amazing career, and you've worked with the greats. What's motivated you during your career? What's behind that?
Well, I think I was always wanting to be good at what I did. And when you're only as good as your last haircut, trust me, guys, it pushes you to want to be better. And bear in mind, I spent most of my career around people far better than myself. And you become what you hang out with. And I'm going to show you in a moment an amazing example of how contagious human behavior really is. So being around greats, I always wanted to do a better job of what I was doing. But when it came to the financial, and I looked at how do I balance the beauty and the beast, I realized that these three important points here, the three laws of compensation, were everything. When I put intentionality around this, everything changed, Andrew. It was pretty amazing. So the three principles that you can see here is, number one, your skill. You are paid for your skill level. And if I'm always trying to improve my skill with studies inside the industry as well as outside the industry, I feel more empowered, I feel more motivated, and I am a more attractive person to be around. There's a curiosity. The demand, there's no point in keep doing a balayage and an ombre from, say, 15 years ago if that ombre ship has passed. It's about being in demand, creating and being aware of trends to come, creating the demand. So Andrew and myself have been around icons in our industry where we've watched them for the very first time create fashions and trends, create the demand, create the trend. And that's what's really, really huge. So I'm always aware of what I'm doing right now. Is there a demand for it? What I'm doing right now, is it relevant? What I'm doing right now, is it fresh? How do I reinvent myself? I'm always reinventing myself. I have to. And then the third one is the skill. the cost to replace you. So if I'm doing something that everybody can do, the value starts to diminish. But if I have something about the way I do my consultation, if I have something about the way I see the balance and the shape that's always making that client look fresh and beautiful, etc. If I have something that separates me from the crowd, then that becomes really important. So for those of you who are salon owners and for those of you who are employees, if the cost to replace you is easy, then your value diminishes. But if you bring something special to the table in your personality, in your skill set, that's what's it. So these 3 principles, Andrew, have been the backbone or the light to Viv, how do you improve your skills? Viv, what's in demand right now? How do you improve the value of who you are in the business? So those have been the big things for me.
That's great. That's tremendous.
Yeah. And then this thing too, when we look at this and we're looking at the ways that we can make more money, and Andrew, chime in on this because maybe I'm missing something. But for me, when I look at how do I, the 3 laws of compensation, I can either get more clients, I can either introduce more products and services, or I can increase the price of my services. So today, again, please take a screen capture of this. Is your strategy to increase your earnings, more clients? Is your strategy to increase your products and services? Are you missing important clients who can't get their haircut from you because you may not be confident to do that, so you're losing them? How about the new perming technology? We have on my website amazing perming technology from Curl Cult. I did a finger wave pink hole perm, which blew my mind. I'd never seen anything like it. And I did it, right? It was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even remember 30 years ago I did a perm. Well, that's an example. More products, a different service. Well, what did I have to do? I had to learn. I had to practice.
So the 3 things that you pointed out, it's you want to do all of them. That is the force factor. That's the factor of 3. I mean, you get more clients, you sell more to each client, right? And you raise your prices. Your business skyrockets. Your business skyrockets. To do that, you need the confidence, right? As you so aptly pointed out. You need the skill to develop the skill so that you are more confident. When you become more competent at what you do, you're much more confident. So we call that the confidence loop.
The loop. We love the loop.
It's a loop. It's the loop. Yeah. And we come back to the consultation, and the numbers are staggering what people think they're doing and what they are actually doing, because 97% of stylists say they give a consultation, but ask the people who they're supposedly giving a consultation to, only 7% of the consumers say they receive a consultation. Now that's called the Grand Canyon gap. That's just not a gap. That's huge. That's huge.
I was shocked when I saw that statistic, Andrew, and I put it to the test. I went to a salon in London that was a very high profile salon, and I booked myself in for a blow dry. And the real reason I went there was to see if I get a consultation. I was greeted by a gracious person. He was lovely. He took me immediately to the backwash to shampoo me, and there was nothing about the service I was having. I was like, whoa, before you wet me down, can I have a consultation? Long story short, he took me to the mirror by my request. He gave me this very vague consultation about, well, maybe we'll cut it a little shorter. And there was no suggestion, nothing about who I was, my lifestyle, my age, how to complement my bone structure, how to freshen up my face, blah, blah, blah. None of that sort of stuff, which is important. And it was like, well, I can do it right now. And there was nothing in there that gave me any confidence or trust, because the narrative was not there. And I said, no, I'll just do a blow dry today. He didn't even ask me what type of blow dry I would like. And so in the end, I said, well, what are you going to do in blow drying my hair? He said, well, do you want it straight or curly? So to me, that goes into the category I just took an order. What are we doing today?
Yep.
Versus a deep dive. And I always say, Andrew, the most important thing is to design from the inside of the head. Who are you? To me,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
respect.
There is no connection. This is where we establish the connection. It's crazy. It's crazy not to give that. And if you, just a quick tip, if you want to see if you're doing it every day, just, number of clients that I did today, number of consultations that I did today. Be honest and truthful. Did I do one with each? And
Yeah.
then we can talk about the quality of it later on.
Yes. So Sarah is a student going through my designer program, and we did an exercise on the parting and face shape, understanding face shape, fashion, and style. And as you can see from all these beautiful images of her client, just by moving the parting of closing and opening the face, you can see how she's taken a face that is more of a pear face shape in some of the images to an elongated face, to trying to balance the face. So what I do is I train hairdressers to recognize face shape, to recognize how to frame the face to create perfect balance. And then I teach the hairdresser how to teach this to the client. So the client can have a value around, oh, wow, your subtle point of difference is that you always make me more beautiful. And all we're talking about here is opening and closing the face. And that makes it so, so powerful. So I believe that the hairdresser's voice that I'm hearing, Andrew, is this: my consultations are weak. I struggle to know how to recommend a new style. Often what the client wants is not her best style, but I don't know how to communicate her style choice, whether it's going to work or not, right? I struggle to be better at consultations, but it's something that I was never taught. Often I'm afraid to suggest a new hairstyle in case the client does not like it. How many of you relate to that? How many of you feel like that's that incredible challenge? I'm curious to know. Just let us know in the chat. And that the other confession, and I'm so guilty of this, Andrew, doing what's best for the client, not what's best for me, my time, my
Mm-hmm.
priorities, the things that I'm
Mm-hmm.
comfortable doing. And Andrew, I am guilty of years of doing what fitted into my schedule, my things that I liked versus what was important to the client.
Yeah.
And we can talk about philosophies and strategies, but I believe that the biggest thing is when you truly design from the inside of the head to the outside, you get that consultation working, you understand face shape and balance and proportion, and you know how to do that. The consultation that I now train hairdressers around, I call it my 3 wheels of fashion. I look at trends, I look at femininity, and I look at personality. Is she a wallflower or is she a poser? I look at face shape. And the very last thing I look at is technique. It used to be my lead. Technically, this is what I'm doing today. But now it's a complete reverse. And that's the thing that has changed. And so I think that is really a huge part of what we do.
Yeah, it is. And I would recommend, I'm just going to say it out loud to you folks out there, if you haven't studied with Vivienne, do. Whatever you do, study with a master and give it a year. Give it a year. Don't be one of these skipping around little tastes of this, a little taste of that, and I'll pull it all together. Give yourself a year. It takes time.
Yes.
And whatever you did in the past, we can't change the past. Okay? We can create our future if we're aware of the present. And so make decisions, get yourself a mentor like Vivienne. I recommend Vivienne because she knows what the heck she's doing. But her system is incredible. I've seen Vivienne, and I'm not just telling tales out of school. I've seen a lot of systems. This is number one. So detailed, and I've seen you live in teaching. You're an amazing teacher. Session I attended a couple weeks ago, it blew me away.
Well,
Really,
thank you. Thank you.
really.
Thank you, Andrew.
So how do hairdressers build their brands? That's a big name, brand. And
Yeah.
it's really intimidating, right?
Well, I didn't know what my brand was. One day, years ago, I was interviewed by a journalist. He said, "So what's your brand?" And I was like, "What?" I didn't even know what that meant because I thought of a brand
Mhm.
like baked beans, which I like. And I thought, brand, that's food, right? And it was like, oh no, fashion designers are a brand. A Calvin Klein's really different to a Betsy Johnson, for example. Oh, and I went, well, he said, well, what do you do every day? I went, I cut hair. I went, he said, what's your brand? I went, I don't know. And I said, I don't know. No one's ever asked me that before. He said, well, how can you create if you don't know what your brand is? And I was like getting dumber and dumber by the second. And he said, your brand is that you're fashion forward, but there's always a twist of elegance there. There's always the elegance, there's always the beauty, but you are fashion forward. I went, oh. So he said, so why don't you view yourself as beauty with a twist, beauty with an edge, beauty with creativity? He said, because that's what you do. He said, now that you know that, you can put more intention around it. I went, oh, wow. So if you look at these images here that we're on the screen, we've got obviously a pretty textured hairstyle, short, we've got a different lengths, and each one of them have a very specific look to them. They're all very beautiful. They're all very wearable. So if my brand that I'm trying to promote, short hair, texture, we spoke about adding services, a perm, it could be a root perm, it could be a keratin treatment, all of our color services, all of the different haircuts that we can do, that's part of building your brand. Is your brand that you do phenomenal makeovers? That is so, so, so important to know. So for me, Andrew, the building of the brand is very important, especially today because we can self-publish. And because we can self-publish, when we have intention around that's important. So guys, what I want you to do today is be very intentional about what do you like? Who do you follow out there? Start creating some mood boards. Again, in my training, this is something that we do so that when we do a post, it is consistent. Andrew's spoken to consistency, and that's really, really important. And this is a very important thing too that I want to share with you. This is kind of cute. And we talked about the influences in your life. I'm just curious to know if you could put in the chat, what do you see about the body language of myself and my art team member, Rosemary, as we're doing the hair of this lovely lady? What do you see as the interesting body language? So I'm just going to give you a few moments to put that in. Keisha is saying that definitely consultations are one of her weakest things they need to work on. So I invite you to join my program. Laurie is asking, how much does it cost for 1 year? Laurie, I would recommend you come to our open house and you'll get to see some of my products and then you'll be able to have the bigger picture. So what do we see there? Lisa's saying tension. Yes. And where do we see the tension? So Andrew, what are you? I saw this picture, but it's amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible. And Lisa, you nailed it. You got it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Colleen is saying both stylists grimacing. We were grimacing. Now, do you think I intentionally thought I'm going to bite my lip? Do you think with intention, Rosemary decided, oh, Viv's biting her lip, I think I'll do the same? She mirrored my behavior. I was working with this model who was extremely difficult, very difficult. We had so much to do in this one day. We had 9 shots to do. We're in the Vanderbilt mansion and lots and lots of challenges. And I am literally biting my lip to stay composed. And then my assistant is mirroring the same. So this is very important. Human behavior isn't contagious. You can, with intentionality, project human behavior that is encouraging, or you can unconsciously project human behavior that is a disservice to you, your guests, your team. So who you hang out with is very important. And the law of influence is amazing. And just for an amusing moment here, this is where the law of attraction, I think, is hysterical. How many of you had a client come in and say, I'd like to look like my Afghan dog, please? Anyone there? Anyone had a client come in and ask to look like their spaniel? quite amusing, I would have to say. And then, of course, here, the best of all, Vivienne looking like my dog. So yes, this is a photograph of me. I think I was like, I don't know, 16 or 17 years old and nice and fat and chubby cheeked. And my dog, a King Charles Spaniel, we look exactly the same. So that to me is really huge. So the law of attraction, human behavior being contagious, is so important. So we have just a couple of more slides to go through in our closing of this today. So I hope you can stay with us. So back over to you, Andrew.
So habit formation, as we both mentioned, is critical in making a success in anything that you do. So, how do you measure habits that actually serve you positively versus those that are taking away from you, from
Well,
who you are? Yeah. What
Andrew,
do you do?
I can watch somebody probably for like 5 or 10 minutes, and I can determine all their roadblocks, the habits that work for them, and the habits that are failing them. And
Mm-hmm.
I can see it so quickly because what I notice is that that habit will be repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated. Now, if it's an outstanding habit, it's going to give you an outstanding result. But if it's a habit where, for example, you find yourself doing 2 haircuts for one surface, one is the removal of the length, and the second one, possibly when it's blow dried, it's the detailing and it's now texturizing the shape. You just did 2 haircuts when actually you could have done one with a better technique. So that means you're working hard and not working smart. So the question is, could that habit be changed? A habit where you don't stop and step back and use your mirror. That's a habit that doesn't work. So I always say you've got to look at your end result and then work backwards. Is the end result giving you everything that you want? And if it's not, then you've got to step back and say, how do I adjust it? So in my training, I ask people to take a baby shift. So
Mm-hmm.
when we show up for our weekly trainings in the designer program, I will say, for example, right, this week, we're going to measure the client's face. We're going to measure the law of 3. That's all you're doing this week. One new habit. I want you to put on your brush, a Post-it note, or, something, a reminder somewhere to say, the principle of 3 or whatever it may be that you're working on, or step back, mirror, just a visual trigger. So I have people writing things on brushes, write a Post-it note that's on your station, something that triggers a new behavior so that you can start to embrace it. Because I think, Andrew, this is probably one of the best statements here. People overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can achieve in a
It's
lifetime.
so true. So true. Vivienne, I think you ought to have a new product, a V journal, and it's a victory journal. And you measure your habits every day, habit by habit, and week by week, month by month, because it's a cumulative. What you're saying is it's been proven. I believe in it, but it goes beyond belief. It goes to the science of
Yeah.
habit formation.
Yes.
So,
And it's powerful. And so I love this here, guys. So a small shift makes a big difference. So everything in my training is about a baby shift. Everything's baby steps, which is why we don't rush anything. We take baby steps. And this is what's interesting. A train that heads from the east going to the west, the train tracks make a 10% shift and it takes the train in a totally different direction. Think about that in your career. If you could take a baby step that's going to take you in a totally different direction.
So talk about time management, because we talk about journaling, we talk about showing up and training. How do you in your training with time management and preventing the overwhelm that we all experience from time to time? What do
Yeah,
you do?
and overwhelm is such a big factor. Number one, strong technique. When you have a strong technique and you know how to map out what you're doing, you are choreographing before you do. In your consultation, communicating, so you hear yourself say to the client, I'm going to cut your hair to this length here. I'm going to do softness in the facial frame through here. The layer will live through here. This will be blah, 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 blah. So as you're saying it, you are rehearsing in your mind where that shape is going to be. I vogue around the face. I use my hands as a facial frame to show the client opening and closing. That's a part of it. When I've sectioned their hair off, and of course I'm talking about haircuts right now, I look at mapping the haircut. Where is it going to live? How's it going to be? I cut, I look, I design. I cut, I look, I design. I don't just remove and then style at the end. I blow dry a section, I look, I design. I blow dry a section, I look, I design. At the end, it's complete. My goal is to have no fiddling, no detailing, no fussing, and it starts with a vision, and that vision always comes from the consultation. So I've been hearing stylists cry for help. My finishing skills are weak. I was never trained in styling. Everyone gets the same blow dry. It's so boring. Anyone relate to that? I've been guilty of it. I feel like I'm just drying hair versus design and styling hair. I know I'm creative, but I have lost my vision. I've been there too. I often do 2 haircuts in one service. I want to be more efficient and have more time to be creative. Often I feel like I'm on an assembly line. So how many of you relate to that? Let us know in the chat. Because those are things too that we like to kind of break through. So to your point, Andrew, habits, the most successful ones to break are when you take a baby dive. And I love your whole thing about journaling.
So what you know, we have folks who do high ticket talent, those hairdressers who do it, and those who are struggling, really struggling. What separates them? What's the
Well,
difference?
I've seen, I have a series called Hair Heroes, and I interviewed some of the most great, incredible hairdressers in the world. And it's just so lovely getting inside the headspace and the mindset of successful people, because again, that way of thinking is contagious. So what I noticed that they all have a passion. They all have a love affair with hair because they are really open to trying new things. They all have incredible discipline, and they have a lot of good habits. Now, do they have some bad habits? Of course, we're human beings, absolutely. But their good habits are the thing that carry them through the hard times. They have a vision, and they are hungry to learn. And they see their clients as a total character. Like, she has a story, and they know how to create a story that's bigger than scissors, bigger than a paintbrush. It's bigger than that. And so to get, again, it goes back to the Beauty and the Beast, the mindset in business, the mindset of creativity. It's always a mindset. And so when I listen to these people, when I hang out with these people, it rubs off on me, just like the law of the influence that we comically showed earlier in this presentation. Again, take a screen capture of this because it's super, super powerful. And I think you'll really enjoy that. You know, 75% of stylists say they're nervous to cut hair short, if you know, and that to me blows my mind. And what I know about that is that, again, it's about having that skill. Now, you worked with Roger, who was the king of haircutting, because he was the one that created some of the most progressive haircuts with Vidal Sassoon. If you could very, very briefly just talk to me about his mindset of never being fearful of cutting hair.
He wasn't. I can tell you, he was a warrior when it came to that. But you could only become that through the practice over the years that he underwent, and he was disciplined. All the things that we've talked about, he was legendary for. He would show up and he would cut hair, and when he was so focused on being there, so that he knew what, as you said, Vivienne, he knew what the outcome was going to be. I mean, I don't know how he actually did it, except he did it. And he had a system for doing it, and he followed the system, and he knew it like the back of his hand, and he just had the confidence in his system, I should say.
Yes.
That showed. And the client, Roger, didn't talk a lot. He was the strong, silent type. So it was really all about the work with Roger. But he didn't have to. He didn't have to talk because his reputation preceded him. And people said, "Hey, you want a great haircut?" He's not going to talk a lot, but you're going to get a great haircut, the best of your life.
Well, the funny thing is, when I was doing clients in New York City, I got some of his clients, and I freaked out because he was a man I never met. He was at Sassoons long before I was, but I knew of his reputation and I knew of the iconic haircuts that he created for Sassoons. And when I started to get some of his clients, they were so particular. And one lady, she should do it so often, she'd say, "Vivienne, my dear, I just measure this front one more time. I think it may not be quite right." So I'd measure it again. And then she'd say, "When I put my head back like this, I think there's more hair there than there is there. Come on, just check it one more time for me." And I would go and I would measure it, and she would be a fanatic. And she said, "Well, Roger," and Roger would be like, "I'm not Roger, I'm Vivienne, and I'm not as good as him, but I'm giving you my best."
I'll follow your instruction here.
Tell me what to do and I'll do it, right? Here's the scissors.
So you've been online in education. You were one of the pioneers. It's been nearly 20 years. What's going on? Tell us.
It has been an incredible journey, and I think that the thing that has been incredible is that this journey, I now do the live events. So it's incredible. I see my hairdressers on the screen. They watch my step-by-step videos, and then they show up for my live events where I'm watching you all work. So I can watch body language. I can look at the techniques that you're doing, and I can give you feedback in real time from the comfort of your home in the salon. We then photojournal the work to make sure that the work is beautiful. This is some of my students' work. And so from there, I give the students feedback on their work as well. And that makes it super, super powerful. So the blend of online with the human touch, watching you work, getting to kind of interact with you all is amazing. And this haircutting program is called the Designer Program. It's divided into 5 terms, and it's a pretty incredible journey. And Andrew, you did get to see it in action, which was a whole lot of fun.
It was amazing. It is amazing, I should say. So powerful. So powerful.
And the summation of that is in my ebook. So guys, if you want that, just go along there and download that ebook. And then also you can always come to an open house. I've seen some questions in the chat. I have an open house, which is a virtual tour. You get to meet me personally. You get to ask some questions. So what we do is we give you a tour of the product, and then you actually can come in and watch these incredible hairdressers in action. And so you can see that. So you'll be able to actually go to an open house tour. So they happen every Monday and Tuesday. We're doing one today at 12 o'clock. If you want to join, you just have to sign up, and you can just go to my website, viviennemakinder.com. And it's there in events, so you can do that. So today we've been on this wonderful journey. We've seen the master here in coaching, and I know that when you dive into this brilliant man's mind and he can open doors of possibilities for you, I think it's really, really huge. So Andrew's graciously invited you to sign up for a strategy session. I encourage you to do that. I encourage you. I also encourage you to reach out to at least 5 people today. Share what you learned today. Share this so that you can actually help and support and elevate others. And I think that's a really important thing. And for those of you who want to, as I said, come to one of my open houses, you can find out about my education. And we're actually launching our new designer program next Monday. So there's a few places left if any of you want to start that journey with me. And it's an amazing journey. So I've learned a lot today, Andrew, by being with you, as I always do. Any conversation's powerful. I think I've learned the importance about the mindset, the importance about intentionality around our habits, the importance of being a lifelong learner, the importance of saying, fear is just an illusion, just kind of break through it. What's been your big learn today, Andrew?
That you have to love what you do, because that's every day, because every day is precious, and we ought to show up with gratitude and love for our work, love for ourselves, love for our clients. That's going to make the difference in life. That's what it's about.
Yes.
And I learned that from you. You know, it's a journey. We know it's a hairdresser journey, and it's a very special journey. And you are an amazing teacher, Vivienne. I just have to hand it to you. And I just want to say one last thing. Vivienne takes responsibility for the education. She takes responsibility for your success. You just have to show up and do the work. She will take full responsibility for the end result. And I love that. That's what great teachers do. And you're a great teacher.
Thank you. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much. Thank you. I just want to say thank you so much. We've got Misty, Stacy, Stephen here. We've got Ruben. We've got some wonderful people here, Valerie, Laurie. So thank you so much. This is recorded, so you can always watch this again. And I know I will listen again because there's always something wonderful to learn. Andrew, thank you so much for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Thank
Truly.
you. Thank you. Bye, guys. Lots of love to you all. Bye-bye.